Hi everyone, welcome back to the Web3 channel. My name is Zach. In this video, we're going to be looking at Jpmorgan. We have spoken about Jpmorgan already. In fact, there's probably a few videos on this channel by now about Jpmorgan entering Web3, specifically the Mana Metaverse, or aka the Decentraland Metaverse. Right now, we're going to be listening to CoinDesk's experts around the question, very good question actually, being should banks be in the Metaverse? With of course Jpmorgan opening, I believe it's the Onyx Lounge in the Decentraland Metaverse. Let's see what's going on here with the audio on, hopefully. Here we go.
We're going to stay in the Metaverse, and we're going to talk about Jpmorgan, which is the biggest bank in the US. They've set up a little outpost in the Metaverse, in this instance, the Decentraland Metaverse. They built a little place to introduce clients and other Wall Street folks to what this whole Metaverse thing can be and is at this moment in time. So interesting thing, we saw this with PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. They did a similar thing a few weeks ago where they built a little Metaverse consultancy in, I think it was the Sandbox Metaverse. But we see these trusted financial brands establishing a foothold in these new virtual spaces, looking to educate folks on what is going on. So this one was another interesting signal of a traditional financial firm doing something new and novel in Web3. And it was certainly pretty interesting to folks and generated a lot of conversation yesterday. So I'm going to throw this straight down to Will for his initial thoughts.
Yeah, I think you did a great job of recapping things. And so I'm just going to jump right to the bottom of this article. See that Jpmorgan has somehow found a way to model out what the price is and like the costs and spending in the Metaverse in the next few years. So they give an $18.41 billion value by 2027. That's going to be the amount of in-game ad spending in the Metaverse. It's across like multiple different Metaverses. And that modeling, as far as I can tell from the article, is based on the price jump of parcels of land, of virtual land within different Metaverses this past year. So in the latter half of 2021, it went from about $6,000 to $12,000, 100% growth there, which is pretty substantial. To me, that almost just seems like completely like that's lunacy just to model that out. So there's going to be an $18 billion of in-game ad spending in 2027 based on something that is completely new. I don't know if I'm just alone there. I mean, I don't like...
Not alone whatsoever. My personal opinion real quick, as they're throwing it around, is... What? Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to be that much, but to say that we know that sort of figure, just not enough data. Just not enough data whatsoever. What we can also look at, of course, is in-game spending of Metaverse-type games like Grand Theft Auto 5, Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, kind of. That's where we can have a somewhat idea, but even there doesn't really give us a proper amount of information for money and multiple reasons. But let's listen to what they had to say first.
I get your take on this.
Well, I think the average of prices of parcels of land is also a little bit of a strange metric to be using right now, because these metaverses all construct their worlds in different ways, right? Some of them are storing things centrally on a database. Some of them cost a huge amount. Everything that you build in those worlds, some of them are centrally stored, some of them are not. And so the cost can vary dramatically depending on whether every time you build something, it's going on chain or not. So it's not just the parcel of the land that needs to be factored in. It's the cost, like gas fees, whatever chain it's on, like how expensive is it to participate in this world? These are all giant factors that I think really complicates the world. And also, I mean, we're at such new stages. It's early stages of metaverse building. And so they're all we haven't got permissions figured out in there. We haven't got property rights figured out. Like, we're building entirely new digital societies. There's so much to figure out. And so they're using scant details to make predictions about costs and all of this, and they're really not going on much at the moment. But it's interesting that they're like, "Nah, it's enough for us to go on. Let's forge ahead."
So as she's saying this, I totally agree with what she's saying. To be very clear, I fully agree. But as I'm putting it and processing everything that's happening in my head, I'm wondering maybe Jpmorgan are aware of how nonsense this stat really is. But maybe in a way, it's also just sort of a way of saying, hey, this is what we're looking at. This big number is what we're looking at. This huge number is what we're looking at. And this, maybe it's playing influence power is what I'm trying to get at. We're what are they trying to do with this? Are they trying to get more people to get into the space because they can see the potential? Because the potential, in my opinion at least, is very real to see numbers like this, or even bigger or smaller, but most likely bigger in my opinion. But yeah, I think we know it's not an accurate depiction, most likely.
And interesting that, I mean, Jpmorgan, okay, we got banks in the metaverse too. Well,
A bank
that's
lounge.
unpleasant. I thought it was going to be a fun place, guys. But well, maybe they could make banks a bit more unlike. But yeah, isn't the blockchain world to get away from these things? Anyway, I'm going to throw it to Jen.
I mean, it's funny you said, isn't the blockchain world to get away from these things? Because the metaverse is more and more starting to mirror our physical verse, and it just brings up so many questions to me. And one of them is when it comes to land. So when they talk about the price of land doubling last year, I think about physical land, right? That has value because there's scarcity. In the metaverse, we could potentially just have infinite land that pops up. And I know that there are strategic ways to make land not infinite in the metaverse, but it could be infinite and we don't know yet. And to Will, to your point, I would love to see the assumptions on that model. You know, like we predict that that these sales are going to be this much. And here are all of our assumptions that we've made. And
$18 billion industry based on 1 year.
just before I pass it off to Zach. Go for it, Zach.
No, I think 18 billion is like maybe an understatement.
Yes.
I was at an event over the weekend in Wyoming, and I think that there is this great angst among brands right now, big old brands, that they are unable to connect with new generations of consumers, and they see the metaverse as their best new opportunity to do so. So I would very much expect in the coming years for many big brands to spend many big dollars in these metaverse activations to do just that, right? To place bets on reaching a new generation of consumers who is increasingly wary of connecting with them on all the existing Web2 platforms that exist to date. So 18 billion in terms of companies spending money to reach folks seems reasonable to me, but I'll toss it to Naomi.
Yeah, I think on the scarcity point, it's interesting to kind of recalibrate the way we think of that, because it's not quite physical land that is scarce in this case, but it is a physical space, and we're looking at server space here. Where is your stuff going to be stored? And so obviously it costs money to store things in the digital realm. And so I think a lot of these costs kind of come from that sort of scarcity, although you can technically like infinitely increase the amount of server space in the world, there is a cost to that. And so there is like kind of this supply-demand trade-off that happes. It's not like, finite amount of space, but even with like physical land, you can build on top of things. You get air rights. You can build out. Like it's not as scarce as perhaps we first think. But throw it to you, Will, for final thoughts and your final bearish outlook.
Just gotta say, I love these bankers coming in with these hot figures. I don't know.
Okay, well, unfortunately, Jen didn't get to say what she was going to say. I could tell that she was trying to say something and didn't quite get there. But with that being said, yes, absolutely, I do believe that this is absolutely going to be. This is it's such an understatement in my opinion. I think Fortnite has done maybe a few $1 billion or whatever, and that's one game. We're talking about a much larger ecosystem than one game. Fortnite has roughly, I would say 300 million users overall. 350 million users probably, actually. Are we really thinking that we're going to be capped at 350 million users? Well, that itself is discussion. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your take. That being said, this is the Web2 channel covering everything happening from crypto, NFT, and Metaverse news. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you in the next Web3 video.